Welcome to SymFit2 of the Healthy Fitness System, and we're going to do an upper body SymFit2 class. We start with the abdominal series. You can take an exercise ball. Barb's going to lift it up, put it in Frankenstein position, elbows locked. She's going to segmentally curl up and place the ball on top of her knees 8 times, making sure she does not skip one of the lumbar spine segments. This is a traditional abdominal crunch within the range of motion that you do not go into a chest lift and arch your back at any point. Then she's going to do 8 abdominal crunches with a little bit of momentum. So she'll take the ball and place it over her head, tap the floor without flaring out her ribs, and as she gets in Frankenstein, curl up and tap between her heels 8 times. Segmentally coming out of that curl up, not skipping a segment. So the hard part of this is the point where that ball gets at your chest, making sure you curl the ball forward, and the point in which you tap between your heels, making sure you roll back down through your low back, not skipping a segment. 3 more. 2 more. 1 more. Then she's going to give herself a 2-second break. She's going to readjust her head support. Now we're going to take and get into a sit-up, and from a sit-up position go into a chest lift and a head nod. Lock out our elbows. She's going to take the ball and put in the right hand, spine twist to the right, spine twist to the left. She'll do 8 spine twists, staying heavy on that opposite sit bone. Do 4 of them. And then she's going to roll down a little bit and finish off with 4 and a little bit of a curved spine. And this is an oblique challenge. 2 more. 1 more. And rest. That's the abdominal series. We're now going to progress to the plank series. Barb will get into all 4s and do a few arm floats to wake up her upper back stabilizers. She's going to give herself a head nod, connect ribcage to pelvis, and then lock one elbow and float the opposite arm. Then lock that elbow and float that alternating arm. She'll just do 8 of these to wake up her lower traps, which are the muscles that stack her upper back. She resets her chest lift after each arm float. Then she's going to get her hands overhead and transition right into plank on knees for 8 seconds. And go back into prayer pose. And then she'll come back into plank on knees for 12 seconds. And sit back into prayer pose. And then she'll come back into plank on knees. And from plank on knees, she'll do 8 push-ups, bending her elbows straight back towards her hips. She'll do 4 of them just through 1/3 of the range of motion, or half the range of motion, whatever she's comfortable with. Then she'll finish off with 4 more through as much range of motion as she can keep a chest lift. And her core is working just as much as her triceps and her upper back. Then she'll go into prayer pose for 5 seconds. Then we'll go into plank on knees. Once we've got the shake, rattle, and roll going on from plank on knees, we'll transition to plank on toes. She'll reset her chest lift and her head nod and hold it for 8 seconds. Then she'll come back onto knees, back into prayer pose, and then back into plank on knees, back into plank on toes. Reset chest lift and head nod, and hold it for 12. Keeping her knees locked, chest lifted, head nodded. She'll come back onto her knees, sit back into prayer pose, and then she'll come back into plank on knees, back into plank on toes, reset chest lift and head nod, make sure her knees are locked, and she'll do 8 push-ups, 4 of them within about a third or half the range of motion, and then the final 4 within whatever range of motion she feels she can control without losing chest lift and head nod. Our tendency in a push-up is to let our head drop and give ourselves the illusion we went lower than we did. Good job. And she'll conclude the plank series with some leg lifts, alternating leg lifts. So plank on knees, plank on toes, reset chest lift and head nod, lock out left knee, float left foot. Lock out right knee, float left foot. Reset chest lift after each float. Do 4 to 8 of these alternating, whatever you feel you can do, maintaining neutral spine alignment. And that concludes the plank series. We woke up the muscles that stack our upper back. Now let's wake up the muscles that hold our skull in a neutral spine, a head nod. In a SymFit2 class, we use resistance. So Barb has 2 2-pound discs. Error on the side of caution here when adding resistance. The posterior aspect of your shoulder is only fractionally as strong as the front of your shoulder. She's going to go through her neutral spine checkoff. Ribcage pelvis is connected. Shoulder blades melt away from her ears. Forehead heavy on the pad. She's going to lift her arms up 8 times. And then she's going to come in a goal post and reset her chest lift and her head nod. Shoulder blades melt away from her ears, and she flies like a bird 8 times. And then she comes all the way overhead, elbows locked, melt her shoulder blades away from her ears, ribcage pelvis connected, forehead heavy. She lifts the left arm, then the right arm. 8 alternating arm lifts. And then she does alternate arm and leg without arching her back. Notice how she doesn't lift her leg too much. She only lifts it in as much as she can keep that pelvis in neutral. And then she progresses to bilateral arm lifts. So she's going to lift both arms, giving herself a little break between. She's going to lock her elbows, reset her ribcage pelvis, melt her shoulder blades away from her ears, make sure her forehead's heavy on the pad, and she's going to lift both arms up 8 times. And this is going to really challenge, and you'll see the muscles under the base of her skull really firing not to let her go into an extension through that neck. And that concludes the head nod series at level 5, SymFit2. She's now ready to challenge herself in overhead lifting. Now that you've woken up your upper body neutral spine stabilizers, let's challenge functional overhead lifting. Barb's now going to do the bicep series. She's going to take the bar and bring it out in front of her so her elbows are off her ribcage. She's going to stack up her back, give herself a head nod, connect ribcage to pelvis, lock her knees, and inward spiral her hips. She'll do 12 reverse bicep curls with a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 tempo. So her elbows really don't move in space, and that in order for that to happen, she's got to keep her chest lift and her head nod. When she's done with 12 of those, she'll bring the bar down, reset her neutral spine, flip her forearms, bring her elbows out in front of her again, and do 12 traditional bicep curls. Elbows still out in front of her. And of the 2 options, a reverse bicep curl allows you to apply the principles of neutral spine alignment more easily than a palm up traditional bicep curls. So when you're picking something up from the back seat of your trunk or the back seat of your car, have your forearms be down, and it'll help you keep your chest lifted and your head nodded. When she's done with 12 traditional bicep curls, she'll go back to a reverse bicep curl hand positioning, and she'll add a forward lunge to her reverse bicep curl, alternating left leg forward, then right leg forward. And as she lunges forward, she's coordinating the reverse bicep curl. And because these are lunges, we'll do 8 of them. And then we'll give ourselves a 5-second break between before we add the overhead press. And notice as she lunges, she's equally bending both knees the same degree so that she's going more down than forward. She'll catch her breath and then she'll add the overhead press after the lunge. And she'll do 8 alternating reverse bicep curls with lunges with overhead press. And as she locks out her elbows, notice her shoulder blades are not hiking up. And if you feel like you need to take a break after 4, remember the main principle is to keep your chest lifted and your head nodded as you overhead press. We'll now place the bar on the floor and grab the kettlebell. So those were all movements of the shoulder into forward flexion. It's not really how we use our shoulder. We use our shoulder in diagonal patterns. So Barb's going to bring her feet underneath her. She's going to stack her upper back, give herself a head nod, connect ribcage to pelvis, make sure her knees are locked and her hips are inward spiraled. And as she brings the kettlebell from her left hip up and out in front of her, she's going to lock the elbow and flip the kettlebell 8 times. It's kind of like she's drawing a sword out of her left hip. So do 8 of those and then turn around and we'll get a view of this from the back. So re-scan herself, chest lift, head nod, ribcage, pelvis connected, knees locked, hips inward spiraled. And she'll pull the sword up and out with her left hand from her right hip now 8 times. And notice the posterior musculature working to keep her shoulder blade against the rib cage. She's maintaining a chest lift and a head nod with each kettlebell pull. Then she's going to turn around and add a lateral lunge to it. So the left leg stays locked and she lands out on the right bent knee 8 times. And this just adds a coordination to a functional overhead lifting exercise. This is how we use our bodies. She'll turn around and we'll get a posterior view of what this looks like with her left arm. Notice as she lands out on that left leg, her pelvis isn't dipping. She's keeping her lower abdominals active. And so as she accepts load on that left leg, that pelvis stays perfect in neutral spine alignment. And you could take as big of a lunge as you feel comfortable. SymFit2 upper body conditioning workout concludes with the dip series. If you do not have a safe strategy for doing dips at home that provides stable platform for you to push off with the left and right arm, please refrain from doing this portion of the workout at home. Barb's going to start from knee bent and do 9 dips by extending her elbows and coming down as far as she feels comfortable and coming back up, holding a chest lift and a head nod. Notice her head is staying back and on top of her upper back. And as she bends her elbows, her shoulder blades aren't hiking. She'll rest for 5 seconds. This is a whole body conditioning exercise, so resting a little bit more than you normally would for neutral spine exercises is recommended. Now she'll lock out her knees and do the same exercise, coming up into what we call a reverse plank. And come back down and come back up for 6 more, 8 total. Toes to nose, knees extended, hips inward spiraled. And pause at the top of the reverse plank for second each time. She'll rest for 5 to 8 seconds, and then we're going to go into a sustained reverse plank alternate leg lifts. Reset your chest lift, head nod, ribcage pelvis connection, inward spiral of the hips. Float 1 foot an inch off the ground, then the other. 8 alternating. Each time, reset that pelvis. Make sure you're not letting that thing slide forward into low back loading. Elbows locked, chest lifted, head nodded. And as with any exercise in the SymFit system, only do as many as you can holding neutral spine alignment.